How long does it take to buy a house, and what all is happening along the way? I'm Kevin Huntington with Metro Home Connection Realty, and those are the questions I will be answering today. Hey, Kevin Huntington here, broker, attorney, and owner of Metro Home Connection Realty, here to answer the questions, how long does it take to buy a house, and what all happens along the way. So let's break the home purchasing timeline into two distinct phases. The first phase we're going to call the pre-purchase phase, and that's everything that happens from when you start to look for a home and get pre-approved for a loan until the time you have an accepted offer. The second phase, the purchase phase, I'm going to call it, happens from the point you have an accepted offer until the closing date. We'll start with the pre-purchase phase. The first thing you're going to want to do, even before you start looking at houses, is check with the lender to get a pre-approval. In order to get a pre-approval, you'll have to submit your W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, and taxes, along with an application that you're going to fill out. And if all your paperwork is in order and you're working with a good lender, they can actually get you pre-approved very, very quickly, even in one business day. If you have to go back and forth and get additional documentation, it could take a little longer, but providing you're well qualified, it can happen very quickly. But definitely get that done before you start shopping for homes, because not only are you going to be looking at the purchase price, but talking to a good lender, you'll be able to learn what your payments will actually be with everything that's included in that. So that may adjust the price that you're looking for in terms of the home that you're going to buy. So that's a pre-approval. Secondly, you're going to be shopping for homes. Now, they say that the average number of homes a home buyer looks at before purchasing is about 12, but that could be different based on your circumstances, based on your options, based on what you're looking for. You could walk into the very first home and decide that's going to be the one for you, or you could look at many, many, many houses until you find the one that really works. So that's going to be open-ended, but that's going to take as long as you want it to, or as long as it takes to find the right house. After you find the right house, you're going to be making an offer. Now, we are obviously at the time of this video, in a seller's market, meaning there are a lot of multiple offer situations out there. So when you submit an offer, it's likely you may not be the only buyer submitting on that house, which means the seller may turn around and hold offers for a period of 1 to 2 to 3, even 4 days before they come back with a final decision. And with all the multiple offers out there, it may be that the first house that you submit an offer on, you get beaten by another offer. And that could happen one or two, multiple times before you actually are able to win based on the amount that you're willing to pay for the house, since so many houses are selling for at or above list price right now. Be prepared. But from the time that you submit that offer to getting that decision, if you're not competing with anybody else and it's just a typical one offer situation, that answer will typically come back within the very same day, or more likely by the next day. It may involve a little back and forth negotiation in terms of price or closing costs or inspection timelines. But from the time you submit an offer, provided you're not competing with anybody, that answer typically comes back within about a day, and you'll know whether or not you have the house. So when you have that purchase agreement signed off on by both sides, you and the seller, you are now in what I'm calling the purchase phase, and that's everything that happens from this point until closing. So one thing to know is when you submit your purchase agreement, one of the items that you're going to put in there specifically is your preferred closing date. Now, if you like, and I recommend this especially in a multiple offer situation, is you can have your buyer's agent check with the listing agent to see when the sellers prefer to close. Sometimes they prefer to close early. Sometimes they may have a specific closing date based on their circumstances. And if you can make that date work for you, that would be a step in the right direction, makes your offer more appealing. Overall, you can expect sellers generally would prefer an earlier closing date rather than a later one. And that's just because the longer the closing drags out, there are more things that can happen in terms of, the buyer losing interest or finding another house or losing their loan qualifications. So it's just safer for a seller in most cases to close earlier rather than later. But what does that mean? Typically, we're talking 30 to 60 days. And when you talk to your lender, most lenders will need at least, they'll tell you 30 days to get your loan in order and be ready to close. So anytime after 30 days is going to make sense. But when you get beyond 60 days on a suggested closing date, the seller may be getting a little wary of that and may want to bump that up early. So anyway, between 30 and 60 days for that purchase phase. Now, what is happening during that time? Well, the first thing you're going to be doing is having your your home inspected. And here in our market in Minnesota, typically we're looking at a 7 to 10 calendar day period, during which time you will schedule an inspection. You'll get your inspector in there. Any and all inspections that you want to do, whether it's radon or structural, water, rodent, mice, insect, and general basic home inspections, you will be able to do during that time. And also during that time, if there is anything you need to renegotiate with the seller in terms of repairs or price adjustments, that will also happen during that time. When you have come to an agreement or finalized the inspection timeline, the next thing that will happen is your lender will then order the appraisal. The reason they wait until after the inspection period is they want to make sure you're still going to buy the house before they order the appraisal, because the appraisal will involve a fee ultimately to you. So they want to make sure you're intending to go forward with the transaction. So the appraisal happens. The lender doesn't have a lot of control over the appraisal timeline. Typically, I see those from 7 to 10 days from the time that it's ordered until the results coming back to your lender. So there you've got the appraisal. In the meantime, you will have a title company, a closing company that your real estate agent will help you get in contact with, and they will be performing the title research on your house and preparing title insurance that's required by your lender to make sure when you buy the house, you're getting clear and marketable title to the property. Finally, during that time, the underwriting will be taking place with your lender, at which time between you and your mortgage representative, you may have some additional paperwork or questions to answer that you'll have to keep in contact with your lender, of course, and make sure that you've got them up to date so they will have everything they need to close your loan. And that is when you get to the closing date, and surprisingly, the closing actually happens relatively quickly. The date will come. You'll have all your financing all in order. You'll do a walkthrough of the house before, generally maybe the day before or the morning of your closing. You'll show up at the closing, and providing the house is in the same condition that it was when you made the offer and your loan comes through, which it should, it takes probably about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, sometimes a lot less, just to sign the documents to purchase the home. Basically, that's going to be your mortgage note and the deed paperwork and whatnot. And at the end of that meeting, you will walk out and the deed will be ready to go to be filed with the county, and you will have the keys and ownership of that property. And again, that takes maybe an hour and a half. So from start to finish, the entire time that it takes to buy a house, depending on how long it takes to find it, which could be anywhere from 0 to as long as you want, at the time your offer is accepted, you can count on about 30 to 60 days, typically 30 on the short end, 60 on the long end, unless for some reason you or the seller need to extend it beyond that 60-day period. You show up to close, it takes about an hour, and you are done. So hope that you found this information helpful as far as the timeline to buy a house. If you have any questions about this topic or any others, I invite you to put a question in the comments, and I'd be happy to create another video to answer any questions that you may have. And if you like this video and you found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you'd like to put a like below this video. That would be great too. So thanks so much for watching, and make it a great day.